I'll give a brief introduction today about the Science of Business Network, and then I'll give the floor to our amazing speakers to introduce themselves, followed by a Q&A session. As we begin this event, we wish to acknowledge that our chapter in Edmonton is located on the traditional territories in Alberta of the many First Nations, the Métis, and Inuit, whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. I would like to welcome all of you today for joining us for another exciting event organized by the Science of Business Network. SCBN was founded 10 years ago in 2011, and our organization's mission is to foster a culture of innovation within and around the research healthcare communities. We aim to improve training for graduate students to career development, such as events as today with a recruiter panel discussion. We aim to enhance a commercialization mentality and link those who are in academia with government and industry. We hope that through our events, you get the opportunity to build your network and connect with others to learn about career paths that can possibly fit your needs. So we are a national organization and our chapters span all across Canada. We're even having a new chapter joining us next month, which is Vancouver. So keep an eye out to look out for their events. I would like to thank my team. So this is our Edmonton team. And thanks to them, we've been able to organize this amazing success series. We are always happy to connect with you. So reach out if you have any questions, if you think of interesting speakers, or if there's a career path that you would like to learn from. We're always open for suggestions. We also are looking for volunteers. So if you're looking for a great opportunity to work on your leadership skills and your networking skills, feel free to reach out to us and we'll post our contact information at the end of the presentation today. Finally, I would like to bring your attention to a few great opportunities. So Bruce Seedway is the founder and president of the Science of Business Network, has launched a podcast earlier this year. And I would highly encourage you to actually listen to these podcasts. Bruce talks to different speakers each time. And for example, his most recent podcast was with Rob Henderson from Biotech Canada. This was a very insightful series. You can find his podcast on different platforms, including Spotify and Google Podcast. Also, I would like to mention the Science of Business Academy. So this is a spin-off S2BN, and they partner with different organizations to provide training sessions and different courses to help you with your career. For example, their upcoming course in June will span over 4 weeks. It's 2 hours a week. And this is a great course that covers a lot of information about the pharma industry, from structure, organization, and regulations. They talk about reimbursement and communications with healthcare professionals and patients. Another great course that the Science of Business Academy is hosting is titled You Are Your Story and How to Stand Out the Interviews. This is a fantastic course that is headed by Marcia and John. For those of you that are familiar with our series, Marcia and John have joined us as panelists previously, and they will actually be holding another session upcoming Wednesday. So these courses have a very small number of participants. It's a really great chance to work on your skills of telling your story and to learn how you can stand out during an interview. Before we start our panel discussion, we would like to thank BioAlberta. This Setup for Success series has been organized in collaboration with BioAlberta, and I would like to welcome Trish to say a few words at this point.
Thank you, Nadia. Good afternoon, everybody. BioAlberta is the industry association focused on the life sciences, which includes biotech and health technology. We're a member-driven and member-funded organization, and we currently sit at about 188 members. Our goal is to create and expand the network to connect small companies, researchers, and startups with the supports and the guidance that they need, whether it be policy, regulatory, or funding, or finding parts of the supply chain. We take pride in being able to navigate that ecosystem and to connect our members to the people they need to grow and be successful. And we're so honored to always work together here with the Science to Business Network. And this series has been just absolutely wonderful. So I look forward to doing many more of these sorts of growth and development under the Boosting Biotech banner together with you folks. I'll turn it back to you, Nadia, and you could introduce the rest of the panel.
Thank you so much, Trish. The feeling is completely mutual. And with that, it's now my pleasure to briefly introduce our speakers today. I'll give each speaker a chance to tell something about himself, about the company they represent, and then they will give you some tips and tricks about what recruiters are actually looking for when they look at applicants. So feel free to post any questions that you have for our panelists in the chat box. I'll try my best to ask all the questions. And with that, I would like to introduce our first speaker, which is Anna Mcgovern. She's a recruiter at MMGI, which is a GTA-based recruitment firm that specializes in life sciences across Canada. Along with her partner, Kevin Maguire, she started a recruitment firm over 20 years ago with a focus on pharmaceutical, medical device, and biotech companies. Along the way, she has worked with companies like Bayer and Merck, and she's here today to give us some tips on how you can use your LinkedIn profile for good use. Welcome, Anna, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Nadia. I'm just going to share my screen if you give me a moment. Can everybody see that?
Not yet.
Okay.
It's always a beauty with technology. We just shared your screen 5 seconds ago. Everything went smoothly, and now that it's the real test, it's not working.
Yeah, Kevin is going to come and help me, I think, but I think I just need to get this pulled up. Okay. For some reason, I'm not. I just need to get into mine.
Go there and there, get rid of that. Okay.
I just had it. I don't know where it went.
I know. We just all saw it.
Go over here, and then I'll just open it again.
Okay.
I don't know what happened there. So I think we're okay there. There we go.
Perfect. And now you got to go back and hit share screen.
Over here.
Yeah, pull that up.
Okay.
And hit share. Yep. No, hit share screen. The green one. There you go.
There we go.
Okay, I see it happening.
Okay.
We're ready to go. A little bit of excitement. So go ahead, Anna.
Perfect. Thank you, Nadia, for that lovely introduction. Sorry for the so slow start. I am so pleased to be here tonight with, along with my fellow panelists, and of course to be partnering again with S2B. So first of all, just to introduce our company, MMGI. I'm a partner at MMGI, a GTA-based recruitment firm comprised of myself and my recruitment partner, Kevin Maguire. We have over 20 years of experience in life sciences, placing MSLs, clinical research, regulatory, market access, and most recently, as a bit of a new development, we've been doing a lot of work in medical device and placing QA, regulatory and medical device startup companies and tech candidates. We've seen a lot of activity in that area. We have seen a lot of change over the years in terms of recruitment, and now, of course, the pandemic being the ultimate game changer. And the good news is there's a lot of activity going on out there. Despite the added layer of complexity that COVID does bring. But Kevin and I are always open and willing to speak with new graduates, those candidates who are just starting in their career and have some questions. We're always available to have a chat and to connect. So, and for those of you who would like to do a deeper dive, we also provide coaching and mentoring services to sharpen things up for interviewing skills. So just to summarize what I'll be touching upon this thing, I'm really going to be focusing on LinkedIn. So how to maximize your LinkedIn profile. The LinkedIn teaser, as I call it, which is the first few sections of LinkedIn, and how to draw people in with those first few sections. Creating substance in your profile, as well as engaging on LinkedIn, because it should be a two-way street. And of course, a checklist to go over at the end to make sure that you're on track. So our experience with LinkedIn has been extensive. As a recruiter, I have looked at thousands of LinkedIn profiles and have developed a discerning eye for what works and what doesn't work. And it's such a great avenue to reach potential employers and like-minded industry partners in a more casual way. And first of all, why is LinkedIn so important these days? Well, whether we want to embrace it or not, we are in a social media culture. And I would say that it's more important than ever with the pandemic to engage on LinkedIn. It's really the business platform to be on to engage with others. And a great way to stay connected with your industry peeps when so much is online, from conferences to networking groups. So just getting a profile up on LinkedIn, as they say with the lottery, will increase your visibility when looking for a job. Having a resume is a great thing, of course. And as a recruiter, if I received your resume unsolicited through an email, I would likely very promptly go to your LinkedIn profile to get a little bit more information. So keep that in mind. In my mind as a recruiter, having an effective LinkedIn profile is more powerful than a CV. It's the gateway to a conversation, to a dialogue with someone online in industry, and perhaps to your next opportunity. So, reaching that goal, of course, of, connecting with somebody and having an online or virtual meeting, or in-person meeting. So today I will share with you, various tips on how to increase your visibility on LinkedIn to have more engagement. So let's start off with the LinkedIn teaser. So again, this is what draws people into your LinkedIn profile and keeps them reading as they move along. So first of all, a photo is very important. Let's start with that basic intro. This really is a must to increase networking on LinkedIn. According to LinkedIn Analytics, LinkedIn members with a photo receive far more engagement, 21 times more profile views, and 9 times more connections. It's important to look professional in that photo. Approachable, wearing business casual attire is great. Be solo in the photo with nothing distracting in the background. And this is your digital first impression. It has a lot of impact. And please do smile. It is important to have that positive and, of course, approachable image. Next, if you move down the page, is your name underneath your photo. And if you have a relevant designation, whether it be MD or MSc or PhD, putting that beside your name, it might seem like a small thing, but again, it gets people looking deeper into your profile. So many times I'll be reading a profile and I see at the very bottom that the person is an MD, and I think, that could have been more clearly stated earlier on in the profile. Next is the tagline. Many people put their job title, and that is fine, in the tagline area, which is the line right below your photo. And if you're in job search mode, I would recommend maxing out that tagline as much as you can. So this is where you can insert important industry keywords that come up in a recruiter's keyword search. If you are looking for an MSL job, there's nothing wrong with you putting into that area aspiring MSL, because again, you'll come up in a keyword search, or clinical research candidate, for example. No, you may not be there just yet, but your profile will pop up in searches that use these terms, and I use these terms daily as a recruiter. If I see MSL or aspiring MSL candidate, it prompts me to go to the About or summary area below that. And so many job seekers skip out on this area. And if this baffles you a little bit, other candidates will put their whole resume into it, which isn't necessary. It's really an area where you can engage and let your personality shine through. Talk about your skills, your passions that relate well to the job at hand, and tell a bit of a story. So I have a little formula for this section if you feel stumped, and what it is just to really show what your interest is in terms of title and responsibility as your first line, and then indicate what skills you bring to the table that fit well into that role. And then lastly, your passion. It could be a therapeutic area, it could be an area of science that you love, and that just gives a little bit more of a personal feel to it. What makes you stand out from the crowd? So the next thing is really the substance of LinkedIn, and if people have carried on this far and looking into your profile, you want to have a little bit of an idea of your CV experience. So your title, of course, the jobs that you've held, as well as the companies that you've worked at and the dates. So you can cut and paste a little bit here, but if your title does not represent what you do, it's okay to have an explanation next to it. Again, this is for keyword search purposes. So if your title, for example, if you're an MSL essentially, but your title is maybe something like medical associate or regional medical associate, if you put in brackets, MSL, that will just bring clarity to any confusion. Because I find I'm reading profiles and I'm asking questions and wondering, well, what does this person actually do? So feel free to explain your title a little bit. So that's in terms of your experience. And then moving on to skills, another area that I think many candidates could make better use of. I've noticed that with life science candidates, with their skills, they'll often feel the need to put in terms such as soft skills, that a good rapport builder or relationship builder, and that's all fine, but something more specific that relates well to the job. If you covered off on certain therapeutic areas, for example, while doing your PhD or MSc, this is a good area to pop that in. So putting in oncology or cardiology. Also, presentation skills. If you're looking at an MSL role, make sure that you mention that too in your skills area. Links to articles that you've written, research papers. If you have a video of yourself presenting, that puts you in a strong light, inserting that into your about area is always a good plan too. I have seen that used very effectively. So, and then the next thing, of course, and this is the ultimate goal of LinkedIn, is engagement. And this is where you're creating a little bit more of a dialogue and a back and forth with your viewer of your profile. So posting on LinkedIn, linking to articles, following companies as well is very beneficial. What that does is, if you have an interest in, say, Bayer or Merck or a small startup, if you follow that company, you'll get all kinds of information flowing into your feed that will keep you in the know and keep you informed as to what's going on, whether it be hiring, new developments, mergers, and that's all very important. And of course, connect with potential hiring managers, talent acquisition in the companies that you're looking at. And the obvious thing about LinkedIn, of course, is to apply for jobs, and certainly do apply. The more positions you apply to, the better. But keep in mind that LinkedIn is not always the best source for applying for positions. It doesn't really give you a full picture. If you plug your search for jobs, say even just putting a search in for into Google that states province, title, and the word jobs, it's amazing what you'll come up with. It'll give you a full complement of what's going on in your area of search. And then moving on to the checklist. So just to go over what we've talked about, make sure that you have a photo that is presentable, approachable, professional, and of course a tagline that includes some keywords that are relevant to the position that you're looking for. Really play with that about or summary area to show a little bit more about your personality and let that shine through. In terms of your title, make sure your title is reflective of what you do, and if it is not, then indicate what you do next to your title. As well, show the skills that would lend well to the role that you're looking at. Links to articles, blogs that you've been involved in, videos that you've presented. Very powerful. And of course, follow companies and connect. And that pretty well wraps it up with regards to this talk on LinkedIn. I hope this helps, and I hope to see you and connect with you on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna. That was very insightful. I'll definitely use your checklist to update my LinkedIn profile. So thank you very much. So with that, I would like to introduce our second speaker for today. So our second speaker is Kevin Maguire. He joined Mcgovern Management Group in 2003 after 10 years in business development with a focus on understanding clients' needs and developing multi-year and multi-million-dollar business service solution. Kevin has worked both with clients and candidates in the pharmaceutical, the medical device, and the biotech industries. And with 18 years of experience working in both medical, scientific, and technical areas, Kevin has developed the experience and network to support recruitment needs in these areas. With that, I will give the floor to Kevin to give us some tips on how to start your career path. Welcome, Kevin, and thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Nadia. Thank you for the great introduction. And I, too, have a screen to share. So let's see.
I can see something happening. Yes.
Has that come up?
Yes, it has.
Fantastic. Okay, well, we've got a ton to cover. So I'm going to jump right into this. And I mean, you've already said it, Nadia, but you know, Anna and I, 20 years of experience working in life sciences, working within the industries that you have already discussed. Really, we work on the, I would say, the scientific, the technical, the medical, the med tech type of roles, really from associate level positions right up to VP level positions. Much of our work is in Canada, not surprisingly, but we certainly work with U.S. clients, U.S. mandates, and also some positions in Europe. So over the past 20 years, we have seen a lot. And when I think about the audience tonight, those who are now ready to make the move from academia to industry, it makes me think of the famous quote from, I guess it would be a colleague of yours. You would probably all know Ray Stantz, and if you don't, that's okay. He's actually the Dan Aykroyd character from Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters. And he utters this very famous line after he gets, actually the three of them get thrown out of the university. And what he says is, personally, I liked working for the university. Give us money and facilities. We didn't have to produce anything. You don't know what it's like out there. I've worked in the private sector. Expect results. And you know, obviously, this line was developed to create a laugh. And of course, in academia, there are results that are expected of you. But what I really like about this is it speaks to the difference of academia to industry, to culture, to a matrix team environment. You're working with a supervisor, and you know, there's some very specific deliverables. And those, and most of whom within industry come from academia, they know the difference here. And so they're very cognizant of this when they're looking at hiring. So when I'm sure with the many people that we've worked with over the years, they're looking at positions in industry, and there are a ton of great positions out there, like the medical advisor, for example. You know, basically, this is someone who scientifically owns a therapeutic area or indication at a pharmaceutical company, a great fit for a PhD who has studied in a specific area. You know, you've got clinical manager, clinical project manager, ensures the clinical trials are running as per ICH GCP guidelines and moving the trials forward on time and on budget. It's a great position. You got regulatory manager roles. They're responsible for submissions or on the submission team. I once had a VP of medical affairs say to me, don't even bother with research if you don't think you're going to be able to get your drug approved. So it too, it's a great position, very, very important position. You got a clinical director. I think that's what Bruce is. And so this is someone who heads up clinical operations, possibly medical affairs, you know, years of experience here, intensive competition to rise to this level after many, many years within the industry. And then, you know, you've got the role that a lot of people tend to focus on, and that's the MSL role. And, you know, this is not an entry-level position to put it, you know, quickly. In some ways, the MSL is the face of the pharma or biotech company, the face to the research community. And as such, you need a mix of specific skills. So these are positions I'm sure that you've researched and come to know. None of them are entry-level positions. Here is a list of entry-level positions. And these are really, really great positions to focus on. And I'll take the first one as an example, clinical research associate. So these are the folks that will pre-pandemic and post-pandemic will be, you know, going to the clinical sites and taking a look at the data, what has been taking place with the patients that are on the medical therapies, you know, regardless of its phase 2 or phase 3. And if you're interested in clinical trials, if you're interested in medical affairs, this would be a really, really smart position to target because number one, it puts you in a competitive spot, applying for an associate level position. And then it's going to put you into a department where you're going to have access to, and as importantly, there are going to be leaders in that department that are going to get to know you and what you're capable of. And so this is a really nice way to start. And if you're interested in medical information, regulatory, quality assurance, the point is that these are good entry-level positions within the industry. So as recruiters, we've got a bird's eye view. We've worked with hundreds, thousands of candidates, it feels like, on hundreds of mandates. And, you know, from the position that we have, we really have a good opportunity to see who gets the job. I'm going to give you a list here. And really, there's no one thing here. It's basically a mix of the following facts that land candidates jobs. You know, at first, it's the candidates who are interview ready. I understand you're going to have a session, Nadia, you mentioned it on Wednesday, about storytelling. This is very important. It's a very important element to succeed in an interview. And essentially, you have to develop a communication strategy to do well. That's important to be successful in an interview. You know, we've spoken to a lot of people who they develop an understanding of a role and they think, okay, that's going to be good for me. Unfortunately, that really does not make you competitive. What's going to land the job is to be the strongest candidate in the candidate pool. And in many cases, dare I say, in most cases, it's people who are already in the same role who are very much the most competitive. Or, and this is the possible exception, you know, candidates who are in a very similar role where the challenges align with the challenges of the role that you're in, and then they can effectively communicate this. So, you know, your strategy, although there are some great positions out there, what you want to focus on is try to be the strongest candidate in the candidate pool. And once again, you know, one of the strategies here is to focus on associate level positions. But there's other things you can do to make yourself more likely to succeed in the industry and make your way into industry without a large gap between graduating and starting your job. You know, outside of, you know, working specifically for a pharmaceutical company or a biotech or a medical device company, there are CROs, outsourced companies, and contract manufacturers who support the life sciences industry. And essentially, these companies assist life science companies manage costs more effectively. And guess what? As part of working for them, they kind of generally tend to pay less, which tends to open up positions within these companies once folks have worked in them for a while, and then they decide, you know what, maybe instead of being outsourced to Merck or Novartis, maybe I'm going to apply for that job that I've seen on Indeed or LinkedIn. So it's a really great strategy to look at an outsourced company, possibly as opposed to trying to jump right into industry. If you do want to jump into industry, you might want to look at possibly a tier 2 or a tier 3 company, like those in the list here. You know, some of these are great companies to work for. You know, in some cases, there are going to be great career opportunities. In other cases, you know, maybe not. Maybe they don't have a huge drug pipeline. You know, they can tend to be smaller, particularly in Canada, but they're an awesome place to get experience. And depending on the position and the candidate pool at that time, you might find yourself being more successful in the competition for that job. And another option, a really terrific option, is considering an industry internship. You know, with an internship, you will gain access to study materials that have been specifically designed to allow you to understand, develop a better understanding of industry, the culture within companies, departments, how they relate, you know, how the matrix team environment works within an industry. And they'll help you develop an understanding. So the information that you get through the internship, and then the internship itself, because there's materials and then there's the internship, and then it'll help you understand where you fit the best. And you might be focused on that MSL role. I mean, if you're a PhD with a focus in oncology, then yeah, it would be reasonable to assume that working with a world-renowned oncologist, a key opinion leader, would be an awesome job to do. I mean, they even give you a car for crying out loud. But once you learn more, you might find out it's not so awesome to try to secure even just a minute with a world-renowned oncologist. And so it's a great opportunity to learn more before you jump in. And Anna and I were partnered with Queen's University PHMI program. By the way, they don't know about this plug, Nadia. I'm going to have to tell them about it afterwards. And if anyone's interested in it, we work a lot with Thomas Baldazar. And you should take a look at it. And they always have sessions that will allow you to learn more about it. You know, with this bird's eye view of being a recruiter for 20 years, we've looked at thousands of CVs, we've talked to a lot of people, and we've seen what many people don't see. And it's a strategy that helps one move their career forward. You know, it's not quite I don't know if you can hear that. Can you hear that, Nadia? The music? All right. So this is not necessarily a stairway to heaven, but it is a stairway to success within industry. And I'm going to very quickly walk through this. So number one, you got to land a job. And as I've suggested, maybe that first position is at PRA, which is a CRO. And let's say you're interested in a career in clinical research. And so you land a job as a clinical research associate. You know, from there, I would suggest what we've seen that works really well is stay in that position, stay in that job, and look for an opportunity for advancement. And the reason being is promotion is a lot more likely when there are those in the position to make decisions who have experience with your track record of success, and they've got to know you. They understand your strengths and those strengths as they relate to the next career step. It's a lot easier for someone to make a decision on that for you than someone else who is interviewing you and has about an hour. And that's kind of one of the reasons why it's unlikely to move from company A in an associate level position to company B in a project management position. So again, what I'd suggest is stay in a company, get a promotion, and then, once you've made that move to being a project manager, and let's say we'll stick with the analogy of oncology, you would then know that Merck has an amazing oncology drug, Keytruda, and there are going to be potentially great career advancements within that company. That's when it would make sense to make that lateral move over to Merck into a project manager, project manager role, a position that you have been promoted to at the CRO. And once again, you'll be one of the most formidable candidates in the interview competition. And so then you move over to Merck, and then lo and behold, there are opportunities, and then you make that move to manager within Merck, and then you're starting to get the idea. With your knowledge of the industry, then you realize that there might be a better opportunity a couple of years down the line at Bayer. And you make that lateral move over to Bayer, you get promoted. Hello? Oh, I'm sorry. And then you get promoted. And then to finish this off, we've seen a lot of people with 10, 15 years of experience within industry move over to a biotech, because biotechs would love to gain your experience, your best practices, your knowledge of SOPs, your knowledge of developing SOPs. And why would you want to do that? You may actually enjoy a smaller company culture, and there is a potential that compensation may be better, maybe a little bit of a higher salary, and possibly some LTIs and some other benefits to moving to a biotech. So this stair-step approach, where you make lateral moves and they get promoted within the company, we've seen candidates do this for years, and it's a really effective way of moving your career forward. So, just in winding things up, when I think of the shift that everyone who's watching this presentation today is thinking about, it reminds me of the quote from Bill Gates, and that is, most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. So, anything is possible. But in a recap, try to be, number one, the most competitive candidate in the candidate pool. Focus on lateral moves that will move you into a company that is positioned for growth. Once you're in that company, impress the heck out of your supervisors and leadership teams, and you're going to be creating opportunities for yourself for career advancement. And then be on the lookout for the next possible company that will support your growth. And so at the beginning, I would suggest, although again, anything is possible, start with an associate level role where you're most likely to win without the heartache of going out on roles where you are less likely to receive an offer. And once again, Ann and I help with career development, LinkedIn consulting, interview prep, and all the rest of it. Thank you, Nadia.
Thank you so much, Kevin, and thank you so much for that plugin about internships. I'm actually going to use that, and I'm going to post a link for our BioAlberta internships that are happening right now. So everybody that is listening, please take on this advice to skyrocket your career and pick an internship at BioAlberta. And with that, I would like to go to our next presenter. So Kevin, I'm going to ask you to stop sharing your screen. And then I will share mine again. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Okay, so our third speaker is Shirley Verga. She is the co-founder and partner of Global Recruiters Network in Calgary. Shirley has 13 years of international experience in sales and marketing related to fields in various industries, including pharmaceutical. She has worked in the UK, in France, and in the US before she started GRN. Shirley directs her efforts of the global team in the pharmaceutical, the biotech, and the cosmetic search practice. And today, Shirley will give us tips of what recruiters are looking for. Welcome, Shirley, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Nadia. Hi, everybody. Thank you for the nice introduction. So, like Nadia said, I'm the co-owner of a franchise executive recruiting firm based in Calgary, Alberta. We are part of a global recruiters network with the headquarters in Chicago. Global Recruiters has about 200 offices across the globe. We've been in business for 16 years. And personally, I run the pharmaceutical and biotech practice in our office. We work with clients that range from a small biotech company with 5 employees up to international big pharma companies such as AstraZeneca or GlaxoSmithKline, or we do type of companies really. A little bit about my background. I'm a dual citizen, French and Canadian. I've worked, like I just said, and lived in Paris, Brussels, London, and in New Hampshire in the US, and now in Calgary, Canada. Hopefully I'm going to stay here for a while. Before co-founding my recruiting business, I was working in an international packaging company in sales and marketing. And I don't have a scientific background. I actually have a Bachelor of Business Administration. But when I studied in recruitment, I chose to specialize in pharma and biotech because it's always been an interest to me. And I can tell you that in 16 years, I've learned a lot about this industry. I've learned about positions that I didn't even know existed in the industries. And the more you talk to people, the more you learn. So what type of position do I feel? And Kevin did a great job at explaining what those positions are. So I worked from junior position up to C-level position. So clinical research, like clinical research associate or project managers or clinical data managers. I worked also in medical affairs, so position like medical science liaison, medical advisor director, medical directors, and anything in research and development. So scientist position and position in toxicology, epidemiology, etc. So today, I want to share my screen now. I want to tell you a little bit about recruiters and how we work and what we're looking for in candidates. So I want to tell you about 3 myths about recruiters first. So using a recruiter costs money to candidates. Nope. No, it doesn't cost anything to work with a recruiter. Recruiters are paid by companies, always. So if a recruiter asks you for some money to start working with him, it's a red flag, so just run away. Second, any recruiter should be able to help me. So in theory, yes, but I think it's always better to work with a specialized recruiter because they will know what's going on in the industry, who are the players, who is hiring, who is not. And remember, it's always a good idea to interview your recruiter, before starting working with them. Ask them, what industry they're working on, what type of position, how long they've been in business. You just want to make sure it's the right fit for you. Third, it's a recruiter's job to find employment for job seekers. So a good recruiter will help you find the right opportunity. They will coach you to be successful during an interview, and they will help you negotiate your salary. But at the end of the day, it's your job. You're the one who's going to interview. So it's your job really to make a good impression and sell yourself to the hiring manager. Now I want to tell you what you need to do so you don't miss out on a good opportunity. So Anne told you a little bit about the LinkedIn profile. And I think it's very, very important to be active on LinkedIn. Even if you're not looking for a job right now, it's always good to have a current LinkedIn profile. You never know what the future holds. And I always tell my candidates to listen to a recruiter. If a recruiter contacts you, even if you're not looking, just listen. That might be the opportunity of your lifetime. You never know. So just be open to listen to a recruiter. Again, have many keywords in your profile. we use keywords to look for candidates. So under your professional experiences, and Anne did a good job at explaining that, make sure you've got some keywords to have, basically the more keywords you put in your profile, the more chances you have to get noticed by a recruiter. Then make sure you've got the right setting on LinkedIn to be able to receive messages. I think that's very important. Sometimes I message candidates about an opportunity and they reply to me after 3 months and say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't go on LinkedIn. I don't go on LinkedIn much, and I've just seen your message now. And the reason is because they don't receive the LinkedIn messages in their email. So what you need to do, make sure you go in your notification on LinkedIn in your setting, and make sure you put receive via your email. So you will receive the LinkedIn messages on your email as well. I think that's very, very important. Same thing, who can reach you? Make sure you put that you can receive any invitation or messages from everyone. Yeah, I think that's something important to mention. Few things to remember when working with a recruiter. So first of all, the skill set and the motivation. So what do I mean here? Obviously, the skill set are important, but the motivation is very important. I always tell my candidates, when I prep them for an interview, you want to accomplish 2 things. One is to prove the hiring manager that you've got the skill set, the competency to do the job. And 2, you want that job more than anybody else, and you need to have the right attitude. Most of the time, people fail an interview because they lack the motivation. So make sure that you smile, you try to be friendly. And I know sometimes it's hard because you're nervous during an interview, but it's so important to have the right attitude. Sometimes, a candidate might be hired just because he had the great motivation or great attitude, but maybe had less degrees or experience than another candidate, but the chemistry and motivation is going to be very, very important. Then be frank about your salary expectations. So don't be afraid to talk about money with your recruiter. We don't want to waste anybody's time. We don't want to waste your time, our client's time. So it's important to know what's your salary expectation, and it's going to be in the company's bracket. Okay, so just be open. Tell us, what's your expectation. Honesty goes both ways. So what do I mean here? I am always frank with my candidate. I always give them feedback after an interview, whether it's positive or negative. I tell them. Okay, if they're not a good match for an opportunity I'm calling them for, I'll tell them and then explain why. But I expect the same way from my candidates. So, for instance, if you have another opportunity on the table that you're considering, that's good to let us know that. Another one, if you already applied for the position I'm calling you for, I need to know that. Sometimes maybe the candidate thinks they have more chance to apply twice or to apply through a recruiter, even if they already applied, but they won't have more chances. So we need to know that. We need to know this type of information. Be responsive. If a recruiter asks you to send your resume to them, don't do it in a week. Try to do it within 24 hours, right? If a company asks you to send your references, something, just do it right away. Again, that will show your interest for a position. The more reactive you are, the better. And finally, recruiters and employers do call references. It's not a myth, we do. So make sure that sometimes you put references at the end of your resume. Make sure you tell those references that they might be called by a recruiter. Okay, and make sure they've got good things to say about you. You might be surprised. So that's me for today, and I'd be happy to answer more questions later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shirley. Actually, I think you addressed like 4 or 5 questions from the registries that they submitted in advance with your presentation. So thank you so much for this. I'm going to ask you to stop sharing your slides, and then I'll introduce our fourth speaker today, which is Nicole Boogie. So Nicole is a native New Yorker. She recently moved to Mount Pleasant in South Carolina, and she hasn't looked back since her move. She actually started her career in the financial industry and made a very smooth transition into the pharmaceutical recruiting field over 3 years ago. She works with top clinical research organizations, including Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and Gilead right here in Edmonton. And she is very eager today to share her insights. So welcome, Nicole. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we cannot wait to hear about the tips of what not to do.
Thank you, Nadia, for that. So nice to be here. This is my first time, so I'm learning from all of you. And even though I'm in the industry, it's such a great refresher to hear, because it helps me with my job to make sure my checks are aligned and I'm doing my job correctly as well. So thank you, panel, for those. I'm going to talk today about what not to do on your CV. Before that, though, I just want to tell you a little bit about my organization. I work at Docs Global. It is the FSP, which means full service provider for ICON. ICON is more recognizable, but they are truly one and the same. We help them. We're the recruiting arm, basically, for ICON. So we have many different programs such as Amgen, Janssen, Sanofi, Gilead, Boston Scientific, on. So we do a lot of work in Canada. I was hired, oh gosh, about a year and a half ago to help with the Sanofi Canada portion for the onboarding portion, looking for project coordinators to clinical research associates, all the way up to project leaders. So the whole vast array of different levels. But I love working in Canada. People are so friendly. And anytime there's an opportunity, I always jump at it. I love my US programs as well, but Canada, I have a special heart for it because I started there. So anyway, I am just going to touch basically briefly on what not to do on your CVs. I see not hundreds, a lot of CVs for the different openings that we have. And there's just some things that stand out that I really want to highlight so it doesn't happen. And they're just simple things, but things that I think are really important. I'm going to talk about what not to put on your CV, corresponding over email, the interview, and then the negotiation. So first, on your CV, be direct to the point. Don't pack a lot of information on your CV. You can speak to that in your interview. I would recommend 5 bullet points of your most important tasks under each role. To be honest, when I'm sourcing for candidates, I'm usually looking for 2 or 3 words that are jumping out at me. It could be negotiation. It could be working with clinical trial agreements. This is for a contracts role. And if I see those 2 words, boom. And if I have to search and go through all these different words and bullet points, and it gets messy and confusing, and it takes time, and it's not your best foot forward. Another thing, don't inflate your job title. If you're a coordinator, write coordinator. I know some companies have different roles for or different titles for their different roles. I see that all the time, and that's a whole nother part of figuring out what your job title is. But for example, if you're working at a company and your coordinator role is the same as a project manager, put in parentheses. So say project manager, parentheses, project coordinator. So that gives the recruiters knowledge that, okay, you are a project manager at this company, but in my industry, it's going to mean project coordinator. So it just sets you up for success. Corresponding over email. I see a lot now that we're working remotely from home. You still should be very professional. I see a lot of words that I'm as casual as can be, and I really like to have informal conversations in the beginning because it kind of lets the candidate, it lets their guard down and we could speak freely. But if you're sending me emojis or saying the words that like we're friends in the beginning, that's not such a great idea. Still be very professional, put your best foot forward, and if you do that, it will secure an interview, which will lead to hopefully a job. So be professional. The third section is your interview. If you're asked a question and you don't know the answer, don't speak around the question or answer a question with a question. That is a huge red flag for recruiters, as it shows the candidate they're not qualified and could be a potential fraudulent candidate. In the year and a half that I've been at Docs, it has become such, I'm sure the other recruiters can speak to this, fraudulent candidates have become a huge source of a headache for us. The background checks are threefold, much more than they have been in the past. Candidates are getting fraudulent candidates are getting very smart in having their job titles in the company cut and pasted, or somehow responding back to you. For example, say they're at PRA, they will manipulate the email and send you an email from PRA. But then, why would you be sending me an email on your company email? So there are certain things to look for as a recruiter, but no one's going to be fraudulent on this call, I know, but it is becoming quite an issue lately. Also in the interview, if you don't know an answer, it's okay. If it's unfamiliar to you, it's better to just say, I'm not familiar, or I don't understand the question. It only demonstrates honesty, and it kind of opens the door for dialogue, like a sidebar conversation, which is nice. So you can get to know the candidate a little bit more, and it will lead to something probably the candidate wouldn't tell you beforehand. So it's okay not to know the answer. Negotiation. Don't go back and forth on salary. It is okay to ask once if there's any room for a higher salary, but only in the beginning. Make sure you have all your wants in one conversation. There's a lot of behind the scenes that goes on at my company to increase the salary. There are approvals, there are certain margins that recruiters work within. And if you go over that margin, it has to go to higher ups. And that's just not a great way to start a job, being flagged as a difficult start. So I completely think you should ask for more money, but ask for it once. And if it's a no, then it's a no. But I always try to get more money for my candidates, always, because I work for a great pharmaceutical company. There's a lot of money and candidates work hard and you deserve every penny. So it's okay to ask, but make sure you are prepared. Or if you want more PTO, paid time off, ask that in the beginning. Because if you go back and forth, it's not so great to start off that way. Last, but definitely not least, I tell all my candidates from assistants up to global trial leaders, before you go to an interview, so working at FSP, there's certain steps. I'm the first step. The second step is after we go through our recruitment, then we present you to the client, whether it be Janssen, Amgen, Boston Scientific. Before you go in front of the program interview, go on their website, see what they are involved in. What clinical trials are they up to? What is their latest project? I cannot tell you enough. I always say that to people. Some managers will ask, what do you know about our company? Why do you want to work here? And be prepared for that. Most do, but there are more often than not, I'm so surprised when the managers at the companies come back to us and say, there was a great candidate, super qualified, was not prepared. And that shows lack of interest. working for their company. So those are my tips of what not to do. I hope that helps. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicole. That was very insightful. I'm going to ask you a quick follow-up before we start our official Q&A session. Can you
Sure.
clarify what you mean with a fraudulent candidate? Is that somebody that is looking for a job but is underqualified, or just someone that is just playing around and messing with the system?
Completely just a fake candidate. Someone who, there's a couple ways to see if they're fraudulent. LinkedIn, they have 5 to 10 LinkedIn followers, or they're LinkedIn with very low number. Their email address there'll be, there's certain email addresses, like there'll be an X in it or a Z. If they're, as I said, emailing you from their current company, why would they do that? They are looking for a job. Their company's going to know that they're looking for another job. But it's happening more and more. And I just can't believe that they do that, because once they leave, say they get through me, they have to go through a couple more steps and they're going to get caught. And then if they do get hired, are they going to do the job? So it baffles, but it definitely makes our background check company so busy. I'm sure the other recruiters can speak to that as well.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And that'll open up the floor for our Q&A session. I saw a lot of questions in the chat, so thank you so much for posting. So the one that I think is very straightforward is, so if we see a post by a recruiter, like what are the steps for applicants? Like, do they contact you directly? Should they send you their CV? Like, what do you guys prefer? Does anybody want to start with that question? Perhaps talk how you work for your company, or perhaps a more general approach.
I can answer that since I just spoke, if you don't mind.
Yes, sure.
I think it's better to email the recruiter directly. If there's a link, if there's a post on your company website, most of the time it will get lost because there's 50 or 60 of them. So if you email the recruiter directly, you're much more likely to get an email back or a phone call.
And just to clarify, would that be an email with your CV attached saying, I want to apply for this position? Is it just a short email saying, hi, I would like to talk to you?
Yep, I saw your posting on your website, job number 27593 for clinical research assistant. Please find attached my CV, short to the point. Here's the job number. And then in the subject line, put that as well.
Perfect, thank you. What about you, Shirley? How does it work for your company?
So yeah, I would say if I put a position on LinkedIn, for instance, I always put my email address and my phone number. So candidates are welcome to either call me or contact me by email to have more information about the position. They can send me their resume or not. As I said, if they want more information and they're not comfortable to send me their resume yet, I'm happy to have a conversation with them to give them more information about the position. And if they're interested, then later on, obviously, they will need to send me their resume. But if they want to send me their resume in the first email, that's okay too. So I'm quite flexible with that, as long as, like Nicole said, they're professional. You know, if I don't have a hello Shirley at the end, at the beginning, or you know, no greeting, nothing, to me, it's I don't like that. So I want them, you know, some greeting and the minimum be professional. That's yeah.
Thank you. And Anna, I'm going to ask you the same question, but with a quick follow-up as well, because one of the questions that came in was when you spoke about adding to your summary, your future, like your area for your future jobs, can you add multiple positions, for example, clinical research / epidemiologist candidate, or do you want to be very specific and only add one thing? Sorry, you're still on mute. I'm just gonna, yes.
I'll start off, sorry about that. I'll start off with the first question. So related to how we like to receive resumes and contacts from candidates, I'm very open to either email or to a LinkedIn connection. And I answer every LinkedIn message that I get. So either one works for me. With regards to that question, I did get that direct message to me, and I think that for an entry-level role, putting in clinical research / epidemiology / so that there are options. I mean, this is an entry-level candidate. They're looking for, potentially an entry-level job in either clinical research or epidemiology. So get that into the tagline. And then you can put in links to different things that connect you either to clinical research or epidemiology, opening up the door for you to look at either role.
Thank you very much. And I would like to follow up on that, and perhaps Kevin can answer that question. So one of the questions that came in is like, do you approach a recruiter just to have that connection if you're not looking for a job specifically? And like, do you guys have like a database where you can just like upload all the CVs, or do you want to wait off until you're ready to get a job?
Yeah, so first off, we don't post any job posts anywhere. We proactively, once we have a mandate, client has reached out to us, we work our database, our internal database. We'll reach out to people on LinkedIn, and we target candidates that way. So candidates certainly are welcome to reach out to us, and by indicating positions, titles, responsibilities that would be of interest, that's great. We're happy to receive CVs, and then we're happy to follow up.
Thank you. That was very helpful. So one question that came in as well, and you can choose if you want to go with best or worst, but the question was, can you tell something about your best or worst experience with a candidate? Who would like to start with this one? I see Shirley smiling.
Well, great experience. I'm just thinking about a bad experience. I mean, great experience. I've had many. What I like is when a candidate is responsive. Like I said in my presentation, is honest. He doesn't go behind my back, and talk to the client without me knowing it. When the process is fluid and successful. I mean, I've got most of them are like that. They've got good good success. So I don't have one in mind. I'm just thinking about bad one. There's been a few. There's been a few. Well, obviously, the worst for a recruiter is when a placement is made behind our back, right? Is when candidates that we've presented, for instance, to a company, and the match doesn't happen, or for instance, the candidate is not interested in the position, and then maybe a month after, the same candidate contacts the client directly. And then they start talking again, and an offer is made, and we're out of the loop. That's the worst for us. If we don't, so that's why if a recruiter contacts you for a position, even if it's a month after, and you start to talk to the client, I think the recruiter should always be kept in the loop to see what's going on, because we had a few like that, and I'm sure other recruiters as well. But placement can be made without us knowing it, and that's not fair because we made the work. We made the connection happen between the candidate and the company. That's where the worst can happen for us. That's what it is.
Thank you. Kevin, do you want to follow up? I saw you unmuted yourself.
I did unmute myself, yeah. So what I've seen a number of times, it's kind of, it's not usual, but it certainly is impressive, and it'd be a great thing for the listeners to do, is present a 90-day plan. So once you've had a chance to review the job description and decide that this is a position that is of interest to you, then submit your CV. make it very clear what your salary expectations are, and present a 90-day plan. And when I see that, that shows me that the candidate is, has a certain level of business acumen that is going to, separate them from the crowd. And make no mistake about it, that's very important for a recruiter.
Thank you so much. Does anybody else want to follow up, or do you want to go on to the next question? Okay, so our next question that I got to the panel is about the salary negotiations. So the question, especially when you're starting out, it's kind of scary to even bring this up. So how do you even address this? Do you do this during the interview? Is this something that you do afterwards? Like, what are some tips that you guys can give us?
Yeah, I'll jump in, Nadia.
Thank you.
For making your way into industry, say yes. It's the first important step. Most organizations within the industry, it's a very professional industry. Usually, they're not trying to get you for less. They're really trying to get you at an equitable number. And I would say with all of the experience I've had with the range of clients that we've worked with, offers are generally very fair. So yeah, I would. That's my best advice. Say yes, get your career up and going.
Thank you. Do you want to follow up, Nicole?
Sure. I see a lot of candidates asking colleagues what their salary is. So they come already with a knowledge of how much the role is paying. So they do their homework. And also on LinkedIn, there's a feature that can show you what the salary range is. But as I said, this is you're going to be working hard. This industry is tough. It's going to be long hours, but it's going to be the best long hours of your life. You're making change. In the pharma industry, I mean, you see what's going on in the news. You're being a part of it. So ask for that. Don't go crazy, because if you're going to ask for more money, have the knowledge of what they're paying around. So typically recruiters will come in and give you a salary range, and there is some wiggle room. So if you can ask, say, is there any possibility to go higher, maybe a couple thousand, do it then. And chances are yes. So go for it and say yes, just like Kevin said.
Thank you. And that is a great lead into our next question, actually. So the pandemic obviously has changed a lot. So are there some major changes that have happened during COVID that actually you think are beneficial to how the recruiting services have changed and that you would like to see after the pandemic is over?
I can say something here. Definitely now we've seen a much more virtual interview, with Zoom and Microsoft Teams, and it's so much quicker. Most of our interview now number of interviews is reduced to maybe 2. Sometimes before it used to be 3, 4, then you've got a face-to-face interview. You have to fly there and visit the plant and visit the lab and see many people. It could last, up to 2 months. And now it's been reduced considerably. We even see some virtual tour of a lab, of a facility, and definitely there's less interview. I mean, that's what I found. I don't know about the others. I'd be curious to know what they think, by the way. There's definitely less interview, and it's way quicker now for the hiring manager to make a decision. It's good.
Anna, would you like to follow up with that?
Yes, I just wanted to add, I agree with Shirley, and I think there's a lot of activity out there, even with COVID. I think there's a lot of COVID fatigue as well amongst candidates and amongst clients, because everybody has to change their processes, and of course everything takes a little bit longer. But with that, I think for candidates just jumping into the market, this could be a real opportunity. Because if you go in there all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and with that kind of resilience that I think so many employers are looking for right now because of COVID, they just want people who will have a positive attitude and be able to adapt well. And I think that's something that if you can show that in an interview, that you're willing to, okay, we're going to change to an electronic system because, you know, everything was done on paper before, but now with COVID, this takes longer. How do you feel about that? Show some enthusiasm and show that ability to adapt, and that will be a real plus for you.
Yes. Thank you. That's very insightful. So time is running out. I'm always amazed how quickly these panels go. So I'm thinking we have time for 2 or 3 more questions. If you have something really important you want to ask the panel, post it now. I'm going to pick my final 3 favorite questions. So one that came in was that often jobs are posted in different cities. And a big challenge is, when do you decide if you are going to move to a different city for a career opportunity? And I was wondering if you guys have some insight, especially for our early career graduates that are either wrapping up their PhD and will most likely move to a different city, or if they want to stay here. How do you balance or make that decision between a job opportunity and your life expectations? Who would like to start off with this one? I know it's a big and loaded question. What about you, Kevin?
I can say that.
Oh, perfect.
Is that okay?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead, Shirley.
It's really a personal choice, I would say. But if you've got a great opportunity, if you just finished, if you just graduated, and if you got a great opportunity in another city, if you don't have any kids, if you're not, if you're single, I would jump out. I would jump on that opportunity. That's how you'd be able to start your career in pharmaceutical. But again, it's a personal choice. But I think if you can relocate, the beginning of your career is the best time to do it. It's after, you're going to have kids and school and husband and wife. And so it's going to be way more difficult to handle. So at the beginning of the career, I think if that's the right opportunity for you, and I think you should relocate.
Thank you. Kevin, do you want to follow up on that?
Yeah, so Nadia, Anna and I are from Montreal, and tonight we are sitting in Oakville. We made that decision a long time ago to move where the opportunities were, and we have not looked back. We've loved it very much. I'll take it one step further though. If it is a job opportunity that would require a relocation, and so if the job is, let's say in Calgary, for example, then I would suggest that most of the candidates that, and therefore your competition will be in Calgary. So if you are ready to relocate, fantastic. When you're asked the question, when can you start the job? I would go with 3 or 4 weeks and relocate yourself there, whether it be you find something through, Kijiji, or if you got a family or friend in the city. Whatever the case may be, make it clear that you could start as soon as possible. So that is one less thing that they have to worry about your candidacy compared to your competition.
Thank you. And Nicole, you moved yourself from New York to South Carolina for a job opportunity as well. So how did you make that decision?
It really wasn't for the job, to be honest. It was a family choice. But again, working remotely, my colleagues are all over the world because Docs and Icon are global, but here I am sitting in Charleston, South Carolina, and I'm recruiting in Canada. So it just goes to show you, you truly do not have to be anywhere, and you have to be everywhere. So yeah, some of our jobs, I will say, on the flip side, if we have an opening, for example, we have Docs and Icon employees who are overseas, and they'll contact me and they'll say, I'm moving to Canada. I'm a clinical research associate. Do you have any openings? And yes, we do, but sometimes the role is site specific. So they need to know Health Canada regulations and rules. And if you're coming from, for example, Madrid or Spain, yes, you're doing the same role, but there's a whole slew of regulations and policies that you don't know about. So find out if it's an easy and lateral move, or if that location that you're moving to is going to require regulations or knowledge of the role. Some of our programs want candidates who have been working in the province already and are familiar with the sites, even though you're doing the same role in a different country. So just to do the research before.
Thank you. Yes, that's an excellent point. So with that, we've come to our final questions. I'm going to ask all the candidates if you can just in 30 seconds to 1 minute, if you can summarize your biggest message, like what do you want our attendees to take away from our panel discussion today? And I'll start in the same order as our presentations. I'll start with Anna. What would you like our attendees to remember from today?
From the presentation today. So for LinkedIn, I think some of the key things is just to really focus on the first intro area of LinkedIn, so that it draws people in and people keep on reading. And I think having that strong tagline and having that great about summary that really shows who you are and shows a little bit of your personality, that will get people interested. And also focusing on the keywords for the job that you're applying for and that you're looking for in the long term. Those are, I think, some of the key elements for LinkedIn. And engage with other LinkedIn members. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Kevin, what would you like our attendees to know or to remember from this event today?
Yeah, I would say work to be the most competitive in the candidate pool, so that you land your job and you don't end up going from one interview to another interview unsuccessfully, which can really shake your confidence. And I know that people can move forward in their career in a myriad of ways. Anything is possible, but keep your eyes and ears open. But at the end of the day, focus on associate level positions, get your foot in the door in a good company, and then just work hard. And Shirley said something that as recruiters we all understand, and she made the point of saying it, and that's attitude. And I prep candidates for interviews all the time, and you kind of feel silly saying, you gotta make it clear that you work really hard and you really want the job. And although it's obvious, but you really got to get it across. And these are really some of the key things. Aim at the right level, and then show them how and why you're a fit for the challenges of the role.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And with that, Shirley, would you like to follow up? What is the one message you would like to convey to our audience today?
Yes, three things maybe to remember. So first of all, as I said, be open to talk. Even if, as I said, even if you're not actively looking for a job right at the moment when a recruiter contacts you, just listen. Just listen. Even if you're not going to take the job opportunity, it's good to create this relationship with the recruiter for the future. And maybe in a year you'll be ready, and then you'll have this connection with the recruiter. So it doesn't cost anything to talk, to a recruiter. Second, like Kevin just said, the motivation, I think, is so important, the attitude and the motivation. Again, you might have a PhD or master in MD, but if you have the wrong attitude, if you don't show your motivation, you will not get that job. And third, like everybody said, that just be professional. I know it might sound obvious, but just be kind and be friendly and just be professional to the recruiter, but also to the hiring manager. It's I know it might sound obvious, but I've seen so many cases where the candidate was not, it's not that it was rude, but it was just not professional. And I think it's key.
Thank you so much, Shirley. And Nicole, what would you like our audience to remember from our session today?
Well, I just think this industry, it's a very crowded field, and what is going to make you stand out? Your CV, have it tight, have it precise, those 5 or less bullet points. Really know what you want to say and say it. Don't crowd your CV. 1 page is great. And then another thing I wanted to add, I didn't mention that I wanted to, our company is doing a lot of, they're called academies. So if you're a coordinator or if you're an assistant, we're doing some training. So I would ask the company that you're applying for, do you have any training academies? You still get paid, but you learn. So a lot of these coordinators are coming into these academies, learning online, CRA, traits and different programs on how to help them become a CRA 1. And then from there, once they have that, they come into the role, boom, they have their experience as a CRA, and then you go to a CRA 2, a senior CRA, project manager, whatever. But ask that question. Those are becoming more, and at least in our company, they're doing a lot more of that now. Online trainings, paid.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And with that, I would like to thank all our amazing speakers today for sharing your tips, your tricks, your insights. It was a wonderful panel discussion. I learned a lot myself, and I'm pretty sure the audience also took a lot of notes. Remind us, this recording will be available on our website if you want to look back and remember what you can do to skyrocket your career. I would like to thank all our chapters, our volunteers, especially my team, and our sponsors for hosting all our amazing S2BN events. And before we log off, don't forget to tune in for our upcoming event on Wednesday. It's about interview skills. It's also part of our Set Up for Success series. So if you want to learn more about that and how you can tell your story, don't forget to tune in. And finally, don't forget to follow us on social media, on LinkedIn. You now know how to update your LinkedIn profile to make it stand out. Contact us for any volunteer opportunities, and we hope to see you at our next event. Thank you so much and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Nadia.
Thanks, everybody. It was great. Absolutely wonderful.
Thank you for having us. I learned a lot as well. It was very informative.
Yeah, true. It was very informative. I learned so much. Thank you. It was very engaging too. So I love this event. Thank you all so much.
I know. I was taking so many notes. Like, hey, stop taking notes. You're the host. Like, yes, this was wonderful.
Yeah, this was amazing.
Great moderating too, Nat. Awesome.
Thank you.